Hey, how's everybody doing? Let's get, I forgot to turn that light on. Okay, today's going to be tough and difficult for me, guys. I got maybe 20 minutes of sleep last night. So I'm sitting here, got everything ready. I'm going to fall asleep if I don't get this started. So I kicked it off a little early. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kicking it off early so we can get out of here. All right, and let me do the quick oops. Hang on. I was also working on some stuff here. All right, so nope, I got to go back here. Dang it. Gotta find the right spot here on it before I bring it up here because I am way off here. Oh. I keep going past it. There we go. Got that. All right, so first let's say hi to everybody and point out the boo-boos going on here. Phelan Clan Wolf came in first, then Crew 1351, and then let's see, Troop 1351, the last of the scouts that are still in the troop. They've getting ready to because they've jacked up the price for scouting so much. They're getting ready to say, all right, we're cutting it, we're done, and we're they're gonna there's the last of the ones that were in there when I was in there are getting their eagle right now, so they're gonna say, all right, we're done. But a couple of the oldest ones that are in there now, I guess they're going to be keeping it because their mom is the scoutmaster, so they'll be keep using the email for supporting me. And then Took by V's in here. And all right, so got to stay awake here for you guys. Sorry, I'm not a coffee guy, so no, I'm not drinking coffee. All righty. Although I do have a couple cans of Bang energy drink, which I usually drink, say for when I'm driving from here to California and back when I'm leaving at like 4 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, I don't want to be. Other good news though for me reading to you guys here. As soon as this live is over, I'm taking the 32-inch Hisense TV out of here. I'm moving this one here over there. I'm bringing the 40-inch one in here, which has so much greater clarity on it, and I can practically read without using the cheaters. I can read what's on it here, so I won't be I won't be getting so eye tired on it. So tonight when I do the live stream on Camp Patton Family Compound for Grow Indoors, it'll be a lot easier for me to read stuff and get things done here. Alrighty, so let's go here. There we go. Boom. And so this is where we ended up last time. Let me go ahead and come on. There we go. And unhighlight that. All right. An hour later, Sarah came skipping through the front door of the sheriff's office with a big smile on her face. Ready to go, babe? She sang out. Just about, Walt answered from his office. Sounds like you had a fruitful meeting with Ron. Yep, he had everything in stock and just needs to do a couple of small modifications to get everything the way I wanted it. He's also making me a second set of rigs just in case the first ones get damaged. Walt looked up as Sarah slid into the chair by his desk. You have that guilty look like you just did something sneaky. Yeah, I spotted Jimmy Hardy and a couple of his cronies going through a burnt-out building, Sarah chuckled. I stopped and reminded him that unless they had written permission from the owner or you, if the owner can't be reached, that they are looting, and by presidential order, they're to be shot on sight. What'd they say? Hang on, I'm going to put it there. Walt asked, I'm spelling it wrong. Suspicious. Suspiciously. Ah, okay, almost had it right. They claimed they were helping the owner clean up. I told them they need to have a written note from the OW owner on them at all times when going through a building. Yeah. Okay, good. Flushed it out a little bit more, giving it a little more stuff on it. And Walt asking, knowing she was holding something back like a comic waiting to deliver a punchline. Mother Nature helped out by blowing my duster open. Jimmy peed his pants and started begging for me not to shoot him. Sarah laughed. I told him to bring everything he collected down here and that you would talk to him about what would happen with it. Walt gave her a puzzled look. Whether or not they have to return it or get to keep it. That was actually nice of you, Walt smiled. If the owners are deceased and no relatives claim the property, why let it go to waste? Walt scooped up the papers he was working on. Walt scooped up the papers he was working on together and tapped them on their end on the DES, not a table, it's a desk, to get them neatly stacked. You know that'll make us have to be here more to approve salvage operations, don't you? Yeah, I'll come and help out with that, she smiled. Walt sat back and looked at her. Really? I thought you'd be wanting to take time for a honeymoon. This is a new world. We need to deal with it and work our time in as best we can. I'm just glad we don't have to hide our relationship anymore. That will make it easier, Walt smiled as he pushed his chair back and stood up and held a hand out to Sarah. Shall we go talk to Chris and introduce Randolph to the agents? Sarah snickered as she took his hand and followed him out of the room. What? Out of the room. What? Walt asked. Just thinking. We're heading over to the DHS warehouse and command center to talk to Chris, Walt said to Judy and Jason as he headed towards the front door. Okay, Walt, Jason said. I'll be heading out to Bear Cave in a couple hours myself, and I'll be back for the morning shift in 2 days. I'll see you then, Walt replied. When they got outside, Walt asked, so what were you thinking about that was so funny? Do you think Liz And no, it's not Liz, it's Lizzie. Lizzie will be mad when she finds out I didn't really shoot Chris and Sal. She asked. Ugh. So I was just reading Took's comment there about dusters. I don't think Chris and Sal are going to stop playing, saying that you did. They're having too much fun with it, Walt sighed. And you know, we all need to have all the fun we need to have all the fun we can to help us deal with this event. Event? Sarah asked in surprise. Really, babe? An event? That makes it sound like a party. Well, what would you call it? Walt asked, with a smile, believing she was going to have a hard time with it. Tawaki, SHTF, Disaster, Catch 22, Fubeb, or just a crap storm of bad luck. Walt stopped and shook his head. I should have known better than think you would have been stumped for a name for it. He paused for a second and then asked, Fubab? Yeah, fouled up beyond all belief. Sarah looked across the hood of the Humvee at Walt. You know, I think that Fubab SHTF Tawaki Crapstorm is what'll be next spring, Sarah said with more than a hint of disgust in her voice. I think you're right, Walt chuckled. As bad as it's going to get, I never would have called it that, but I think you're right. Everything's going to be Fubab by the end of the winter. Just as they were getting into the Humvee, Randolph drove up wearing his old uniform. Walt told him to follow him to the DHS warehouse and command center. Once they were there, Walt introduced Randolph around to everybody. Then Chris had Agent Jesse Carter take him inside to get his DHS ID card that would allow him access to the security locks. Inside the command center, Chris introduced Walt and Sarah and Randolph around to the staff that came up from Boise. One of the female analysts made a comment about. Hang on, I got to figure out what sort of comment. It's not a snide comment. It's not a flippant. There's a word where it's sort of like, I can't think of it, but I'll put something else there. Made a it's not disparaging, but it's sort of between disparaging and flippant. I'll just put sarcastic. Oh, didn't spell it right. Hang on. Sarcastic. There we go. And it changed that to lower S. One of the female analysts made a sarcastic comment about Sarah's outfit, and Sal jumped in. Sarah, he shouted as he held his hands up, don't shoot her. Sarah rolled her eyes and looked at the ceiling and let out a loud sigh. Sal, I wish you'd stop with the I shot you and Chris joke. She looked down. She looked back down and over at Sal. Unless you want me to shoot you. Sarah had a wicked smile creep across her face. Sal got a stricken and hurt look on his face. Aw, Sarah, don't ruin our fun. I know you two love the joke and love to watch people squirm, but I'm afraid it's going to backfire one of these times, Sarah explained. Well, since you put it that way, I guess we'll have to stop. So you didn't shoot them? The analyst asked. No, that was Sal's joke to get Walt's witchy aunt to behave. Hang on. Your spanking her bare backside did more to straighten her out than any joke did, Chris interjected. My point exactly, Sarah replied. Just then the door opened and two Navy SEALs stepped in, followed by Matt and Karen Mitchell and Cindy Montoya. Then two more SEALs followed and closed the door. Mr. Vice President, Mrs. Mitchell, Sarah spoke up quickly. Sarah, Karen exclaimed as she rushed over and hugged her. How are you holding up? The sounds of a couple coffee mugs hitting the floor echoed through the room. And Sarah and Karen looked around to see a few shocked faces of DHS staff working in their cubicles. Better than expected, Sarah paused and scrunched her face up as she gave the question serious thought and added, actually, very good. She smiled broadly. That's great, Karen smiled back. What are you guys doing here? I thought you weren't going to be putting in an appearance until a secure office could be set up. Sac Davies has a couple of possible sites for us to look at. He wants to get work on set. He wants to get to work on setting it up as soon as possible. Karen glanced over at Chris. He doesn't like us being so far from town, even though it's an exceptionally secure place. Well, he's just doing his job, Sarah nodded. And with his staff as thin as it is, I can understand him not wanting to spend a lot of time going out there for meetings. Yes, Matt was thinking the same thing, Karen sighed. But looking around town at the damage from the earthquakes and fires, I'm having reservations about any building here being strong enough. Any non-brick building still standing and not showing cracks should be well suited strength-wise. Its functionality and being secure is the problem. Sarah said with concern written across her face. Karen looked over at Cindy, whose eyes were scanning the room. That's what Cindy said to us this morning. Sarah chuckled as Cindy blushed and pulled her Stetson hat down over her eyes a bit more. Cindy is a fast and eager learner. The door opened up and Cindy turned quickly and stepped between Karen Mitchell and the door. Cindy's quick actions caused Sarah's right hand to go to one of her pistols as the left hand pulled the duster out of the way. A woman in a dark blue tactical uniform stepped in and pulled the door closed behind her. Sarah glanced. Sorry, I made it wrong. Pulled the door behind her. She glanced around and set her eyes first on Walt and then on Chris. She closed the distance between her and Chris and stopped about 6 feet away. Chris glanced over and paused his conversation with Matt, Walt, and a couple others and gestured for her to come forward. As she joined the group in conversation, Chris soon pointed over to Sarah, Karen, and Cindy. Looks like your teacher's here, Sarah said to Cindy. Who? Karen asked, looking puzzled at Sarah and Cindy. Federal Protective Officer Reba Trickle. She nodded towards the uniformed woman. She's going to train Cindy in what she needs to do as your bodyguard. I think Cindy's doing just great so far, Karen said. I haven't had to do much so far, Cindy sighed. There's so much more I need to know. Karen smiled at Cindy. You'll do just fine. After all, you were quick to move between me and the door. It just seemed right, Cindy replied modestly. That's a big part of it, I bet, Sarah said. I hope so, Cindy whispered under her breath. Oh, let me get some water. Well, Karen spoke as she placed a hand on Cindy's shoulder. Let's go meet your teacher. After introducing Randolph to the DHS staff and getting him set up with ID badges for the DHS facilities, and Cindy meeting Federal Protection Service Officer Reba Trickle, Walt and Sarah headed over to the high school to check on the refugees that followed the DHS caravan from Boise. They were currently being housed in the gym until accommodations could be made for them elsewhere. They were restricted to the gym, locker rooms, showers, and restrooms, while the various churches worked to find places for them. When Walt and Sarah walked into the gym, they saw Deputy Sue Myers talking to a family nearby. Deputy Daniel Green was sitting at the table talking to a couple other families with chairs and well, hang on, what? Oh, a couple other families. Sorry, I dropped the line down. That's what threw me off. As they walked, they noticed the gym had been divided into areas for each families with chairs and caution tape. Cots had been provided for as many for as many adults as possible, but many children would have to sleep on the floor in their sleeping bags. A few families had their own camping cots. A few had folding tables, and a couple had small camp stoves. There were even a few that had set tents up in their allotted area. Did you plan for this? Sarah whispered to Walt as they walked across the gym floor. Not for right off the bat afterwards, Walt sighed. I was thinking we'd get some beforehand friends and relatives like we got or afterwards, like in a couple of weeks. Then more after the snows melt and the roads clear. Hang on, that is let me figure that one out, guys. All right. Yeah, okay. I think we get some we get some hang on, I'm going to take that of out of there first. That of isn't going to work. For T steroid ARRIV arrived. Okay, now it's going to sound a little better. Walt sighed. I was thinking that we would get some friends and relatives before the asteroid arrived, like we got, or afterwards in a couple of weeks, and then more after the snows melt and the roads clear. as the road's clear. Not a bunch this soon afterwards. Yeah. All right. Your best guess as to their philosophical leaning, Sarah. Hang on, Sarah asked. Center and a little to the right, Walt said, looking around the gym. The vast majority of far left should still be in the cities waiting for the government to give them free handouts without any requirement attached. Although we might get a couple. Then they noticed Deputy Myers walking quickly over to them. How are you going to handle these people and any who come up before the roads before the snows close the roads? Sarah asked. Let them know that everybody works, fishes, cuts baits, or haul butt out of here, Walt said grimly. Hey, Walt, Sarah, Deputy Myers said when she stopped in front of him. Sue, what's the situation with these people? Walt asked. Well, Sue began. For the most part, they're fleeing the increasing violence down in the Boise metro area. Two of F-A-M-I-L-I-E. Two of the families have family and friends in the county. A few are heading further up north to family farms as soon as you say they can go. A few are well provisioned. They just weren't thinking it was going to get so bad in Boise before the winter set in. They were planning on it getting bad, but we're going to stay there, Walt asked in disbelief. Yeah, Sue. Yeah, Sue shook her head. They figured that if it got bad, there would be a die-off over the winter, and then those that were better prepared could band together and secure an area and rebuild. They weren't counting on it going south so quickly, so they got out while they could. I want to talk to those families in the weight room later, Walt said. And the rest? The rest didn't plan for more than a couple months before they thought things would return to normal. They brought at least 6 months worth of food with them. Soon leaned in closer. Several have asked what can they do to earn money or food for their families. They now realize their mistake. And of course, a couple asked what we are going to give them and where are they going to be housed. Well, make sure they know, Walt sighed, there are no handouts. Everyone who stays in the county has to work. Nobody rides this train for free. Then, as if the fates were laughing to challenge him, a man in a business suit came stalking over to him. You there, the business suit shouted. You seem to be higher up the chain than these lackeys. He waved his hand in Deputy Myers' direction. Like I told him before, I want to speak to the mayor, a member of the city council, or the police chief immediately. These conditions are totally unacceptable. A person of my station should not be placed in a gymnasium. I should be put up in your best hotel. Walt closed his eyes and tilted his head, shook his head slightly. Then took a slow, deep breath and looked up at the man. Moon over Miami came in. Woo! And he looked up at the man. First of all, there is no police chief. The sheriff's department has jurisdiction for all law enforcement in the county. Secondly, the mayor and city council members are assisting in searching the collapsed buildings for survivors and seeing to the needs of the city's citizens. Well then, I demand to see the sheriff, Business Suit shouted. Stop shouting. Hang on, let me make that get a little better. I'm gonna make that stop shouting in bold and italics. Walt growled, there are a lot of stressed out parents and children here. I'll not have you adding to their discomfort and anxiety. If, let me get that one done, you continue to shout and upset these refugees, I'll have to take you in custody for disturbing the peace and escort you out of the county. Business Suit blinked several times in surprise, and after a moment or two started turning red. Then a bit quieter and then in a bit quieter and agitated tone huffed, I will not be threatened by an underling. I demand to speak to the sheriff. I am a taxpayer and you are not. Oh, hang on, I got to highlight this. This is Sarah getting this face. You are not a taxpayer here in Adams County, Sarah interrupted, just waiting for him to play the taxpayer card. You're a refugee here, not a VIP. You don't get any special executive preferential treatment. And you are speaking to the sheriff. So watch your tone or you'll get special criminal treatment. Deputy Green walked up behind and waited to be acknowledged. Business Suit saw Deputy Green and spun off about him. Your deputies were sitting over there laughing about murdering bikers yesterday. Sarah gritted her teeth and reached forward to poke Business Suit, and Walt stuck a hand up in front of her. Sweetheart, if you love me, you'll let me handle this. Sarah looked at Walt and saw the fire in his eyes. She smiled and nodded. Sure thing, babe. But if you need my help, wave me in. She stepped back a little. Walt turned back to Business Suit, and in a voice that was obviously holding back anger. Listen, you tainted Kool-Aid drinking snowflake sack of manure. You have no idea what you're talking about. Murder is the unlawful taking of innocent life. There were no innocent lives taken yesterday. What there was taken was the lives of murderers, rapists, child rapists, black marketeer slavers, drug dealers, explosive dealers, purveyors of a whole host of other disgusting crimes. Walt took a quick breath. And they threatened to rape and kill my wife. Walt pointed to Sarah and her friends and every female in town, including little girls and every little boy in town. And if my deputies were laughing about it, it wasn't because the slimy trash was killed. It was the way they were killed. Walt took another quick breath. They were killed by the same ones they said they were going to rape and kill. After they drew down on my wife. The veins in Walt's neck and forehead were standing out like never before. So you want to whine about murderers and rapists and child rapists and slavers being killed? Then you better haul your butt back to Boise, Nampa, or wherever the hell you came from, because you're liable to get yourself whooped by one or more of the ladies in our county. Nah, Sarah spoke up with an evil grin. We'll just escort them to the county line and let Williana and Bernie escort him to the south county line of Washington County. Heck, we might get him all the way back to Boise. Business Suit's eyes were getting bigger as Walt was talking. After Sarah said they would send him back to Boise, he threw a hand out in front of him. Now, hold on a second, he exclaimed. You can't do that. It's getting dangerous back there. Why do you think I left Boise? Everyone's allowed to carry guns. Everyone in Idaho can carry guns. Always has been. Walt replied, shaking his head. Deputy Green spoke up. He's from Berkeley, California. Oh, Berkeley, huh? Sarah snickered. I guess you left California because you found out the state wasn't going to babysit you and hold your hand. Walt sighed as Business Suit cut his eyes to Sarah. To Sarah. Hang on, I need to switch this around. Glared at Sarah, then spoke. They told us to evacuate to higher ground in California, idiot. She rolled her eyes in disgust. Or let the government take you to one of the locations they prepared with food for you in the Midwest states, dipstick, not to areas where food and other supplies are not staged for you. Sarah exclaimed and turned away from him and muttering, what a brain-dead snowflake. What's she so mad about? Snowfoot asked, a bit confused because Sarah had made it his fault. Well, Walt began slowly, my wife and I spent the last year and a half trying to get the county ready for this disaster. We worked long and hard getting the needed food and medications and medical supplies and everything we could for our county residents, not for snowflake refugees who wouldn't follow directions for the coastal states. Then what happened to follow you to the doorsteps of our county, but one of the most notorious and violent scum-sucking biker gangs ever. Yeah, they followed you here from Boise. Walt paused to take a breath. Business Suit opened his mouth to speak, but Walt quickly held up a hand and wiggled an index finger side to side, indicating it wasn't an option now. Indicating that wasn't an option now. Then those perverted bikes threatened to rape my wife, and she had to kill over 75 of them herself. She's not even 20 years old yet. Walt paused. You know what? Hang on. I gotta check some out. Yeah, yes, Berkeley. Yeah, that's what law enforcement in the Bay Area calls Berkeley. They refer to it as Berkeley, because of UC Berkeley. Hang on, I gotta double check something really quick here. So this is October 24th. Do I got the other one? No, it's not there. Crap. Hang on, I gotta bring it back up here against the wind fact sheet. Oh, it's over on the other page here. Bring it over here where it's supposed to be, and let me look at stuff. I hate it when the Microsoft forces an update and closes everything out. Man, hang on here. What the heck is this? All right, let's see what that one looks like. That one. Hang on, it's opening stuff up over here. All right, and this one here is open. Okay. Ninja in the fact sheet. Come on. All right, that one there. Close. And okay. So let me go ahead and close that side bar off there. Bring this one over here. This is Scout and the Ninja. Drop it down. This one here is the channel members. Drop it down. All right, so did I put it in here? Crap. Yes, I did. Okay, so Sarah, I had it right. Sarah until Groundhog Day. So, and Walt just turned, make sure 17 and a half, 18, 19, yeah. So the 15th, drop that down. Yeah, so Walt just turned 22 the previous week. Yeah, okay. I forgot to put that in there. I need to go back in the first book and put in his birthday party in. Dang, totally forgot that. Guys, hang on while I do some editing here. Against the wind. Okay, so October 15th. Let's go into October 15th. Ah, perfect. So I just need to grab this. Control, come down under that. Put that in here. There we go. And see where my line is here for the page break. Page break line's not working right here. Okay. Sarah. SPE spent the afternoon baking a birthday cake for Walt. And I will highlight this so I know to come back later and expand upon that, save that, drop that down. Okay, that's sometimes what I got to do. When I miss a piece of fact that I have laid out in like the like this spreadsheet here, I got a lot of people's ages. I got their ages at the beginning of book 1, ages at the start of book 2. I have birthdays for some of them in here. I got special things about Sarah, the stuff she has. I got stuff about little notes about people, about what happens to them and stuff. And some things get moved out of the way here, and the wrong things move. I got all sorts of fun things around here about all the different characters in the novels. And these are just the characters that are currently in book 1 and 2. So I'm down to line 269 down here, but there are some spaces in there and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of characters, a lot of information about them, and so this is how I keep track of the stuff going on. And then I got one laid out for timelines and stuff, other little special things on it. I line out chapters, number of pages per chapters. Talk about certain areas in here. And of course, I got the titles for all 25 books coming out here. Let me put it back on people and hit save. Then move things around and drop it down. All right, let's go on here. Keep going. And she's not even 20 years old yet. Walt paused, looked down and away, but held his index finger to stop Business Suit from speaking. After several seconds, Walt continued, and then you have the audaciousness to come over and start yelling at me that these conditions are totally unacceptable and that you should be put up in our best hotel. Just who the hell do you think you are? Here, you are a leech, a freeloader, a parasite, wanting to have their food and their water when you have done nothing to earn it. That's right, I said earn it. Business Suit stood frozen, staring at Walt, as did almost everyone in the gym. Yes, it's a whole new world we live in now, came a voice from the doors. The days of the privileged, rich ruling class are gone. You don't work, then you don't eat. You steal food, and you'll most likely be shot by the owner, or get your bare butt spanked by the sheriff's wife. Everyone turned to the doors to see a well-dressed woman and two men with her. They weren't fancily dressed, but it's obviously their clothes were not cheap. The men were in bright-colored flannel shirts and tan designer cargo pants. The woman also wore tan designer cargo pants, but they were overly tight, and a flashy Western-style shirt. Lizzie, Walt said and stared at the trio. What are you doing here? Mark said you had refugees that needed help. Dad said it'd be a good place for me to start over and get. Dad said a good place for me to start over was getting rid of my jewelry, she said as she walked over to Walt, pulling a small wheeled suitcase. And since all the places I wear them to are gone, I should put them to good use. Here, she held out the handle of the suitcase to Walt. It's full. Walt reared back and blinked. He reached out and took the handle of the suitcase. You're Elizabeth Ward, Business Suit exclaimed. We met at the Waldorf Astoria in Beverly Hills for Nancy's presidential campaign and fundraiser a few years ago. I'm sorry. Elizabeth looked at him confused. Who are you? Obviously taken back that she didn't remember him. Business Suit stuttered. I'm Jackson Dodge of Pearson, Allister and Dodge, public relations firm out of San Francisco. Oh, right. Charles's whiny little pervy brat. You're the one that tried to get little Nikki in the supply closet at the fundraiser. You remember the one of the high school volunteers that were serving as runners? Walt quickly spun towards Sarah, thinking she was going to shoot him on sight, only to see her standing dead still, turning 3 shades of purple. Elizabeth, Sarah spoke slowly. Can you prove that? Elizabeth gasped when she saw Sarah and the fiery death in her eyes. Yes, Nikki's family is here with us. Jackson Dodge gasped when he heard that Nikki was here in town. That sounded like a guilty gasp, Deputy Myers chortled. I told you he was touching me, came a declaration of a boy from the area in the gym where Jackson Dodge had charged from. Sue, Walt said flatly and pointing at the young boy that had just spoken. Go talk to him. Then he turned to Elizabeth. I want to talk to Nikki. You can't talk to my son without my permission. I didn't give it. Jackson Dodge shouted. Stepson, Mrs. Dodge shouted back, and I give my permission. Deputy Green quickly grabbed one of Jackson's arms and twisted it behind his back. Jackson Dodge, you are being detained in the matter of 2 cases of child molestation. Walt, why don't Sarah and I take the jury over to your office and wait for you there? Elizabeth said, looking at Sarah's purple face. How about we take it to Max and have him see how to break it down, best utilize it, Sarah said. I don't want to be in the office when you bring him in. I just might hang him from the flagpole. Walt didn't say anything to Sarah. He just nodded. Then to Deputy Green, get him locked up now. Put him in the drunk cell. I don't want him peeing on any of the bed pads. Sarah and Elizabeth turned and started to walk towards the door. The little boy who the Deputy Meyer had gone over to talk to hollered out, I want to talk to the cowgirl. Sarah stopped dead in her tracks and took a deep breath and blew it out. Slowly, she turned around and started walking over to the boy. I tried to leave, she whispered to Walt as he passed. I know, Walt replied. I think he needs a hero. Sarah almost tripped when he said that. She regained her composure and continued over to the boy. Deputy Sue Myers was down on one knee and slightly off to the side, with the mother between her and the boy. Sarah stopped in front of the boy and squatted down. As she did so, her duster opened up a bit, exposing several of her pistols. Wow, the boy exclaimed. You have a lot of guns. Sarah smiled sheepishly and nodded. Yes, I have a lot of guns, and I use them to stop bad people. Like my stepdad, the boy asked hopefully. My name is Sarah. What's yours? She asked with a warm smile. Charlie, he smiled back and asked, will you use your guns to stop him from touching me? Well, Sarah started and gave a short pause. I need to know exactly what he did to know if I have to use him. He made me suck his pee-pee, and then he put it in my butt, Charlie declared loudly. Sarah turned slowly back to look at Jackson and mouthed at him, you better confess, and rubbed her hand over the butt of her ball and cap pistol. Walt saw what she had mouthed, and said, if Nicky confirms his actions, we'll have Homeland Security Special Agent in charge, Davies, decide what to do with him. Sarah smiled an evil, devious smile in response to what Walt said. Jackson peed himself. Sarah turned back to Charlie. He won't ever touch you again. Thank you, Charlie said. I know you'll protect me. With that, Charlie's mother broke down crying. I'm so sorry, Charlie. I should have believed you. That's okay, Mom. She's here. She's a superhero. Charlie smiled so big, Sarah thought his face was going to split open. What makes you think I'm a superhero? Sarah asked. You just met me, and I haven't done anything super. The sheriff said you killed over 75 of the bad biker gang in an hour. Only a superhero could do that, Charlie said in awe. That just makes me a normal person afraid of losing the ones she loves. I just acted to protect them, Sarah explained. I need you to tell Deputy Myers here everything about what your stepdad did and when was the last time he did it, okay? Crestfallen that she was leaving, Charlie nodded. Okay, Good. Sarah smiled at Charlie. I have to go and do some things that the sheriff asked me to, but I'll stop by later before I head back to the ranch. Great, Charlie exclaimed and asked, what's your superhero name? Sarah started to repeat she wasn't a superhero when Jason hurried by and said, don't let her kid you. Don't let her kid you. She's a heck of a hero. We Indians call her Lightning Death. I've seen her draw. She's faster than anyone and always hits the bad guys. Then Jason gave I wasn't sure I should put her name in there or not. Then Jason gave her shoulder a quick tug as he headed over towards Walt. Gotta go, Sarah said as she said and leaped up to follow Jason. Wow, lightning death, Charlie said said softly in total awe. She's like the cowboy Ghost Rider. Sarah almost tripped again. Walt, we got a situation, Jason whispered urgently and nodded towards the door and started walking with the others following. Now let me get the goop out of my eyes. The furnace just shut off. It's blowing hot air up in my, from under the table here, and it dries my eyes out, gets some tearing and dries the tears out and makes it all gucky, goopy. Ugh. All right. Once they got outside, Jason turned around and spoke in a hurried but quiet voice. The ham radio is on fire. Reports of meteors coming down now in the daytime. And they're not all coming from the east. What do you mean they're not all coming from the east? Walt asked. North and south, points all in between. There aren't any reports of them coming from the west yet. Oh, damn. Oh, man. I wasn't this tired when I did the 24-hour live stream a couple of years ago. Man, 20 minutes of sleep just does not cut it. But I think they soon will, Jason said very worriedly. You're right. If the big asteroid had small asteroids trailing it and then pulled enough smaller ones from the asteroid belt, it could be then it could be trailing a big wide stream of asteroids like a comet. Hang on, like a comet's comet's tail. Hang on, let me grab it. Ugh, my eyes are just burning. Ugh. All right. There it is. A bit like a big comet's tail. The Earth could be going through that tail, and smaller ones, heck, even some big ones, could be pulled into a decaying orbit around us, and could come down at any time from any direction. Walt voiced as he contemplated the possibilities. Jason, you might want to get some of them from Bear Cave to come help clean up and salvage timbers from the collapsed buildings to make lean-tos against the cargo containers for safety, Sarah suggested. That's a great idea, Walt agreed, but just have them cut trees. It'll be quicker. Um, I'll go call him on the radio, Jason said and added, what about knowing everybody about the daytime meteors? Have Judy add another message to the AWS? Walt said, I'll go back inside and break the news to the relief workers first, and then all the refugees. See if you can get the mayor or any of the city council or county commissioners. Let them know what's going on. You got it, Jason said. All right, give me a minute. I gotta go take care of something here really quick. Wrong book. I'm gonna be here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There it is. All right, I'll be right back. Give me All right, I'm back. I had mixed up some energy powder stuff. And nuke myself a hot dog so I can get some protein in me here. All right. You got it. Do you want me? Oh, do you want me to call Kathy? I'll do it. Sarah said as she moved quickly to Jason's SUV. Just drop me off at the DHS trailers. I'll call the house and the mine too. She looked at Elizabeth. We'll take care of that tomorrow. Go warn your group. I will, she said and added, thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Um, and I need to talk to NI. Crap, hang on here. Da, 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 da. Check something out here. Got to there. Yeah, okay. All right, where was it? Nikki's parents, Parent. About Dodge, Control C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. About, comma, the Jackson Dodge. Arrested. There we go. All right, let's get back at it, folks. Hang on. I thought I heard someone talking outside here. Hang on. I got to take a look here. Just a bunch of kids running around in the street. All right. Sarah, text me with the names of anyone else of anyone else that you contact. Walt called out as Sarah hopped into the SUV with Jason. Walt headed back inside and waved Sue over to him. As she walked over, he looked around at some of the relief volunteers. He saw Bishop Ralph Judge, waved him over to him as well. When Sue got to him, Walt told her to get all the volunteers to come outside and repeated that to the bishop as well. When all the volunteers were outside, Walt spoke to them. Everyone, I should come out here so I can give you an update before we let the refugees know what's happening. There are reports of meteors coming down in the daytime back east. I think this means that the Earth has moved into the path that the big asteroid took, and now we're in the middle of all the smaller asteroids that it pulled from the asteroid belt. He held his hand up as he took a breath. The daytime asteroids are coming in from other directions, not just from the east, but so far, not from the west. With this new development, everyone may have to hunker down in their basements for the next several days until we pass through the asteroids. Now, I know the gym has reinforced concrete walls. Hang on. WALLN walls, but I don't think it can take a hit on the roof or from a bowling ball sized meteor on the walls. Is there enough room is there enough room in the basements? Town to house all of the refugees. How long do we have before we start taking hits? Bishop Judd asked. It could be 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 minutes. No one knows. Walt answered, maybe never. One of the volunteers spoke up. If we're, Sheriff, where did the friggin' fly come from? Man. It was just snowing 2 days ago, and I got flies coming in the back door, I guess. Sheriff, if we're passing through the tail of the asteroids, won't that mean that late tonight most of the meteors will be coming straight down? Walt nodded. That depends on the time. It's likely, but hopefully for us, they'll be hitting well south of here for the most part. We will get several more hits than we have been getting, but nothing like those in the areas of the tropical zone. Which will be taking thousands of hits if last night's shower was an example. However, we will still be getting the odd trajectory meteor that farther. Let me figure this one out. That is farther out and is pulled in by the Earth's gravitational pull, and is traveling at an odd angle. Now we need to try to get as many people into basements as we can. I'll put out a call to my congregation. Bishop Judd responded. So will I, the Baptist minister said. Good. We have to get the message out to other areas of the county. Good. I have to get the message out to other areas of the county, Walt said, and turned to walk away. Sheriff, Bishop Judd called out. Thank you for everything you've done for us. The others nodded in agreement and voiced thanks as well. Walt smiled sheepishly and nodded nodded back before continuing to his Humvee. Walt swung by the DHS facilities and picked up Sarah. Sarah informed him that he told Chris and that they should expect meteors to come in straight down tonight too. Chris told her they had several cargo containers that were empty, with 1 inch thick eight. Hang on, I gotta do this. This is where I just type something in quick rather than spelling it out. 8 foot by TWEN 20 foot street plates on top of them, and a couple of them welded to the back ends of the containers. They could squeeze just about everybody inside them with room to lay down. Chris also told Sarah that 3 of the most southern sites went dark during an update call just before she got there. 2 other sites had reported meteors making groundfall in the area during the call. Security detail for the Mitchells was headed back to the Smythes with Reba in tow. Several Humvees and 72 Flyer tactical utility vehicles were hauling supplies to the Smythes as fast as they could. Sarah then told Walt that she got hold of David and he had heard and already contacted those at the mine, Redoubt Village, and Bear Cave. Are in their buried cargo containers. David also said that New Mexico and Colorado were reporting that they were taking hits now. No reports of ground hits in Wyoming or Montana yet. Before they left, Walt asked Chris about his basement. Chris said it had an 8x8 safe room off the side that was under the garage floor, which was 6 inches of reinforced concrete. Satisfied that Chris and Nancy would be fine, Walt radioed Kathy to check on her group, GROUP. Kathy told them they had a setup in place to deal with it. They were almost back to the ranch when David called on the radio with reports that ground strikes in Wyoming, but only aerial observations of meteors in Montana. Walt accelerated a little bit more. The internet's finally dead, Jake Donaldson called out to everyone. The satellite we were linked to must have taken a hit, or the ground station that controlled it did. Paul Snyder responded, "I'll check the manual for alternate satellites to try to link to." "I'm surprised it stayed functional this long," Linda chimed in. Monday, October 26, 2037, the 5th full day of the passing. Walt sat at his desk in the sheriff's office going over the reports for the last couple days. So this is 2 days later. Since yesterday, several more homes have been destroyed by meteorites. None were caused by the few daytime meteors that have been seen passing overhead. A couple of barns were destroyed by meteorites that were large enough that the kinetic energy blew the walls in and collapsed the roofs. But most of the homes were destroyed by fire when gas lines were broken and then ignited by the electrical circuits from using generators to backfeed the circuits, or by open flame candles or oil lamps. Some were caused by candles or oil lamps falling over. 3 fires had spread to the houses that were next door to them. The city's water pumps were down again because the power went out at 9 o'clock last night. The fires were burning all over. Hang on. The city's water pumps were down again because the power went out at 9 o'clock last night. The fires that were burning over Cuddy Mountain from the big meteor impact a couple nights ago were still going, and a couple spots had flared up and burned a couple of the wooden transmission poles and down the power lines that were headed north, and that caused circuit breakers to trip at the hydro power station. No one reported. No, the one report that really bothered Walt this morning was on the number of deaths so far. None of the deaths were due to starvation or human violence. There were too many that were still based on being ill prepared and not responding properly to the events. 15 deaths just last night alone, all in homes that caught fire. Judy, Walt called out to the dispatcher. Yes, Walt, she answered back. New AWS message. Everyone is to turn off the gas at the meter or propane or at their propane tanks for their appliances, stoves, water heaters, and furnaces an hour before they go to bed, and not turn them back on until they are awake. Also, any home using candles, lanterns, or other flames for light is to turn off the gas at the meter or propane tanks when said flames are lit. Too many homes are burning down because of gas or propane leaks igniting. Can you get that out on the air ASAP? I'll put it into rotation, Judah responded. It should be live in a couple minutes. Anything else? Not right now, Walt sighed, knowing that things could change in a moment's notice. You don't sound convinced of that, Judy quipped. Murphy's Law, Walt stated annoyingly. Yeah, was her only response. Walt continued to work through the pile of reports and supply requests, civil complaints, and such. It was at times like this that caused him to seriously consider hanging it up and letting someone else be sheriff. Judy, you're going to be late to your church meeting, Walt heard Sarah. Interesting. Okay, I'm just looking here at the date and stuff. Why did I do that? I don't know. to your church meeting, Walt heard Sarah say as she came through the front door. I'm leaving now. Walt, you going to be okay? Yes, Daniel will be here in about 30 minutes, he replied. Got another death and 2 serious injuries to add to the daily report, Sarah said as she came into Walt's office. Who and where? You know the story. You know that story about old man Markenstein and the Jewish gold he recovered from the Nazis. Sarah replied as she flopped down in the big padded chair to the side of Walt's desk. Yeah, I got his death report here from last night. Well, Jimmy Hardy and his cronies were salvaging through Markstein's place, looking for the safe in the basement. They moved the wrong timbers, and some of the remains of the floor collapsed on him. Jimmy was crushed against the safe, and the other 2 busted up pretty bad. Doc says it's going to be a month or so before they can get up and around. Jimmy didn't ask to check out Markstein's place, Walt stated with a sigh. Yeah, I know. She exhaled hard. It took 2 of us to get him out of there. And all the while, Richard Lang kept saying that he told Jimmy to wait to get permission first. He probably wanted to hit the safe first to clean it out. That's what Richard said. By the way, do you have any idea what the combination is? Not a clue. I don't think anyone does. It's in his folder, Sarah said with a hint of humor. What? Walt exclaimed. I saw it there this morning before I went out to check on salvage operations. Where? Walt asked hurriedly as he pulled out the folder on Markstein. The coroner reports photos. Walt quickly flipped through the photos and stopped suddenly on one that showed Markstein's Nazi prisoner tattoo number. I'll be a suck egg mule. I would never have thought of that. Yep, it opens right up. Wait, you memorized that number when you glanced at the photo this morning? Look at the number again. What does it look like? The date. Yep, it's my mom's birthday. That's why it stuck with me. Weird, huh? I'll say. So what was in it? 56 11 ounce stamped on them. A shoebox of gold watches, and another of gold rings, and a whole bunch of photos. Sue is logging everything. Sarah held her breath like she wanted to say more. What else? You're holding your breath again. I stood watch over the safe while she went to get evidence bags from her car. She bit her lower lip. While she was gone, I searched the safe and found an envelope taped to the bottom of the lower shelf. She reached in her duster and pulled out an envelope and tossed it on Walt's desk. Walt looked at the envelope and saw it wasn't sealed. What does it say? It's instructions to where the rest of the Nazi gold is hidden in town. Hidden where? Walt asked, starting to get treasure hunt fever. The cemetery. He buried it in. Hang on. He buried it in the cemetery, Walt exclaimed. Nope, hid it. Sarah smiled. In the crypt. She reached into her duster again and pulled out a long, odd-looking skeleton key. This was also hidden in the safe. It unlocks the door to the to the crypt, and the doors on the pedestals that the sarcophagi are sitting on. We're sitting on. The pedestals have 3 foot tall, 6 foot long, 3 inch deep compartments. All right, hang on a second. I think I hear somebody. Yep, grandson's in trouble. He snuck over and was playing in the backyard. Um, talking to himself and stuff, and he got sent home. He didn't ask to come over. All right. Let's see. I got to rewrite. It unlocks the door to the crypt, and the hidden doors on. I just heard a car door slam out. Good thing I sent him back. His mom's loading up all the boys. They're heading into Idaho Falls. All right. And the hidden doors on the pedestals that the sarcophagi are sitting on. The pedestals have a 3 foot high, 6 foot long, 3-inch deep compartment full of ingots. Something's just not clicking right on this sentence. Have 2 doors for a 2 doors for a. Actually, it's not going to put. No, I want to change that. FOUR 4 doors for 3 foot high, 3 foot tall by 6 foot long, and 3-inch deep compartments, which is full of gold ingots. A couple thousand pounds each, I would say. Walt sat back and looked at Sarah for several seconds. Babe, 2 questions. First, who else knows about this? And second, what ideas do you have for the gold? First, no one. Second, I think that since Mr. Markstein doesn't have any living relatives that we know about, the money goes to the court, goes to the county by default. I think that we should use it to help the refugees that are staying in the county. Well, those that are willing to work for it. However, we should make it general knowledge, because that would get more coming this way than there already are. But dole out a little at a time as needed. Make it last. Also, the county can use some of it to make purchases to help stimulate our local economy. We may wind up having to print our own coins. I have a feeling, and I have a feeling that you were right in your books that paper money will soon be worthless. So you don't want to keep any for ourselves, Walt stated more than asked. Sarah vaulted to her feet. Hell no, it's not ours. Walt smiled at her. Heck no. Walt started laughing and rocking back in his chair. That's another reason I love you. You love to help others and don't want any rewards. Oh, I want rewards, just not money. She slipped over and sat in Walt's lap. Just then the front door opened and Deputy Sue Myers came in pulling 2 suitcases with wheels. Walt, is Sarah with you? Yes, I am, Sarah answered quickly, getting off of Walt's lap. I found more after you left, Sue said as she walked into Walt's office. There was a hidden room behind the safe. How did you find it? Sarah asked before Walt could open his mouth. I went to close the safe door, and the hinge stuck at 90 degrees. I got behind the door and pushed. And it was still stuck. So I threw all my weight against it, and the safe moved. It was hinged on the opposite corner and pulled away from the wall. The room was full of painting shipping crates, like you see in the movies. She bent down and retrieved a ledger from the outside pocket of the suitcase. Anyway, I looked around and found this. She handed the ledger to Walt. It lists over 40 famous paintings and their corresponding crate number. Sue took a breath. Walt, 2 of the paintings are listed as Picasso's The Naked Woman on the Beach and the Portrait of Gabriel by Dagas. Those 2 paintings alone are worth over $12 million. Walt let out a long whistle as he leaned back in his chair. Holy loose pocket change, Batman, Sarah said, and immediately clamped a hand over her mouth as both Walt and Sarah stared at her in disbelief. After several seconds, she took her hand down and shrugged. Okay, my secret's out. I'm a Burt Ward fan. I am not dressing up like Robin, Walt said flatly. You can, though. Sue snickered. Anyways, Walt said sternly, what were the dimensions of the pedestal compartments? 3 feet wide, 3 feet high. HIGH. 3 feet high, 6 foot long, and 3 inches deep, Sarah. Sue asked. The pedestals in the crypt in the cemetery. Walt typed the numbers into his computer. That's 4.5 cubic feet. Gold weighs 0.7 pounds per cubic inch, Sarah offered up. Okay, Walt typed some more. So there are 7,767 cubic inches per compartment times 0.7 pounds per cubic inch. That's 5,443 pounds per gold per pedestal. 10,866 pounds if there are compartments on both sides of the pedestal, Sue added off the top of her head. There is, Sarah said. times 16 ounces per pound is 174,182 ounces. Times 2 is 48,364 ounces. How many pedestals? 6. Times 6 is 2,090,184 ounces. Gold was slightly over 2,100 an ounce on Friday, Sarah said. Okay, Walt typed some more numbers. Holy bat weenies, that's over $4.5 billion. Holy moly, Sue said, shrugging. Man, three S words in a row. Sue said, shrugging her shoulders. We needed to get that gold move now. Walt picked up the phone and dialed the ranch. After a couple rings, it was answered. Grandma, is Dad around? Can you get him? It's urgent. Walt put his hand over the mouthpiece. Sarah, head back out to the cemetery, but don't go in. Sue, head back to Mark Steen's house and wait for some DHS agents. Just guard it for now. I'll be there shortly. Come on, get the gunky out of my eye. There we go. Sarah and Sue headed out the door when Walt's dad got on the phone. Dad, in the new barn, in the back, by the back door, are a couple of pallets of empty ammo cans. Load them on the Ranger 2 and get to town as fast as you can. That's a good idea. I'll meet you at the cemetery. I'll explain when you get there. Bye. Then Walt dialed Chris's office at the DHS facility. Chris answered immediately. Please tell me you need me to get out of my office. You got a lot of paperwork too, huh? Way too much. I need 2 Humvees with gun turrets, one at the corner of Main and Moser Avenue to meet Deputy Myers there to guard several $1 million worth of recovered Nazi stolen art, and the other at the cemetery to stand by with Sarah to guard several billion in Nazi gold. You said billion? Yep. I'll go to the work on the artwork on Main Street and send Sal to the cemetery. I'll meet you there in a few. And Chris, you may want to bring along one of the 5-ton trucks if you want to take charge of the artwork. How much are we talking about? Over 40 famous paintings and shipping crates. I'll get one coming. I'm not sure where we would secure it. National broadcast via all VHS stations, channels, most AM, FM radio channels, and most ham radio call channels. By order of the President of the United States of America, Presidential Security Directive AR-002. And of AR-001 has been enacted. All those currently engaged in acts that undermine the stability of the country, any state, county, or community, i.e., such as gives aid or makes deals with any and or all murderers, rapists, looters, kidnappers, robbers are as guilty as said murderers, rapists, looters, kidnappers, robbers, and are to be arrested and tried within 12 hours by in-place local, state, or federal authorities. If none are available, the area SAC has the authority to act as judge. Military officers with the rank of general can convene a court martial of 3. Can convene a court of 3 to 7 officers to act as a panel of judges. Man, I'm having a tough time staying awake here, guys. Sarah had overseen the packing and loading of the gold, from the cemetery. Mark Rogers had driven the Ranger 2 right up to the crypt. Walt's brother, Dave, and Michael, along with brother-in-law Thomas, helped Sarah and Mark load the ingots into the 223 and 50 caliber ammo cans that they had brought from the ranch. DHS agents Sal Peters and Tim Jones stood watch over the cemetery with their Humvee with the GAU 19 in a turret. After the artwork was unloaded into one of the still empty cargo containers in one of the barns, Chris and the DHS agents left to head back to town. As Chris pulled out last in the line, he stopped and rolled. He pulled out last in the line. He stopped and rolled down his window and shouted at Walt, "I'm glad you'll be watching that stuff here away from town. Somebody was bound to ask what we moved to the facility, but now we can say whatever it was had been shipped back east, and stick with it. I would stick with that story if I were you." All right, guys, I can't barely read anymore. I'm gonna have to call it quits for now. So it looks like tomorrow we will should finish. Hang on, we're at 145. Let me highlight this. And 145, 151, chapter 145, 145, 145. So it's 32 more pages. So tomorrow we should finish up chapter 2 and start getting into chapter 3. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to scroll this back up here, get it back to the place it needs to be at. 6, 5, there we go. All right, hit save. There, that is saved. Ugh. Man, I'm about ready to fall asleep here just sitting here. I guess I'm not going to swap out the monitor right away. I'm going to have to go take a nap and then come back and swap the monitors around so I'll be ready for tonight with the big 40-inch monitor in here instead of a 32-inch. Tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on Camp Patton Family Compound is Growing Indoors. And I got a bunch of stuff to cover on that. So I will see you around then. And see you guys later.